You're listening to the My Simplified Life podcast, and this is episode number 58. Welcome to the My Simplified Life podcast, a place where you will learn that your past and even your present don't define your future. Regardless of what stage of life you're in, I want you to feel inspired and encouraged to pursue your dreams, simplify your life, and start taking action today. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac, and I'm excited to share my stories and life lessons with you while taking you on my own journey. This is My Simplified Life. Hey y'all, welcome to another episode. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac. Today, we're talking about elephant sisters. Is that a new term for you? Because it certainly was for me. My guest is two-time best-selling author, PhD wellness rock star, self-made millionaire, and podcast host, The Gold Digger, Kimberly Olsoon. Kimberly shares her story of how she was burnt out of corporate life after having two kids and discovered not just network marketing, but went on to launch a coaching business of her own that is now bringing in 7 figures. Kimberly is literally everywhere you look on social media, and she's sharing her knowledge on all things social media, network marketing, and building a business. Her secret sauce of authenticity and her ability to keep showing up is what have people begging to work with her. Before our conversation, I read one of Kimberly's books, Why Balance Is B.S. In it, she shares the story of what an elephant sister is. I couldn't love the story and the message behind it more, and I know it's going to resonate with many of you as well. Hi, Kimberly.
Hey, Michelle. What's up?
I'm so excited to chat with you.
I'm excited too. This is great.
This is fantastic. Can you introduce yourself to everyone who doesn't know you already?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Kimberly Olsoon, also known as the Gold Digger Girl. That's my online brand that I've built in the last few years. I got into social media in the spring of 2017. So relatively new. I feel like it's jog years though, right? Like 1 year feels like 7 years. But I got on because I really was out of options in the corporate world. So when I had my second baby, my girls are a year and a half apart. When I had the second one was coming, I was 8.5 months pregnant and I was let go from my big fancy paying job. And we just built our dream home. We had 2 new vehicles, 2 kids in daycare. So living the American dream. And then I didn't have a job. So went into a bit of a depression, cashed in, our 401ks, credit cards, all that stuff. So I got a job locally, but it wasn't enough, and I was commuting 2.5 hours a day. So on top of working full time, I missed it all. I missed my baby's first steps. I would FaceTime into doctor's appointments for their well check appointments. And it was just constant mom guilt, constantly feeling like I wasn't good enough. And, financially, we just weren't getting ahead. So my friend kept telling me about her network marketing business that she was doing. And I was very against it. I had just this negative perception around it. So I kept telling her no, and she kept following up, and she was like, look, I replaced my income. Look, I got a car. And I didn't really care about that. I just wanted a better life for my family. I was also struggling with alcohol abuse. It's in, both sides of my family. So I knew I needed to do something. So I told her, I said, I'll try it for 30 days, but I'm putting this on my secret credit card. If I don't make this money back when the statement comes, I'm out. Like, I'm returning this kit. Don't ever ask me again. So I was like all in, and so I was super coachable, hungry. I wanted it. And I did everything she said. I made my initial investment back, 3 times over. First few months I had, warm market, had that success, but then I kept self-sabotaging, which is really common. I feel like network marketing and entrepreneurship really is the school of personal development, because you do have to face those demons or limiting beliefs. So I at least recognized it, and I enlisted support. So I hired a professional, therapist. She's also a life coach and Reiki healer, and really into that energy work too, which I love. So I worked remotely with her intensely for months and was able to overcome all the issues with alcohol and just, the things I was doing that was unhealthy. So that was in the summer of 2017. So 3.5 years of the time of this recording of sobriety. And why that's important is because that was holding me back. And I had to address it. I had to face it. I had to do the work to reprogram my subconscious mind. So after that, everything changed. Like I just had the energy to work on my business. I had the focus. I got really aligned with, what was the right next step for me. I became very intuitive to kind of listen and be bold. I started going live on Facebook. I mean, I had no friends. I had 250 friends on Facebook, no Instagram account. Like I was not a social media person, but I really wanted it. So I, obviously got into training and coaching and learned what people were doing. So I started going live every week, started a Facebook group, and everyone was asking me to teach them what I was doing. Cause I would tell them, I legit would be like, yeah, so last week I learned about, Messenger and how you can create great conversations and make money in Messenger. And they're like, okay. And then they would do it and it would work. So I think people really liked that I was being honest, that I was not this like guru or anything like that. And so they would say, will you teach us vision boards and business planning? And can you teach us what you're doing? And of course I monetized it. I was like, sure, for a price. So I started
smart.
Right? Yeah. It was like, if I'm going to spend 90 minutes on a Saturday and take that away from cause my babies were 1 and 2 at the time, I'm like, I have to compensate myself. So I started small, but I just did these workshops and then online boot camps. And then I started coaching because people were asking me to coach them. And I was still working full time. So I would coach them on my way to work in the car. And I started the Gold Digger Girl brand in the spring of 2018. And since then, I was able to quit my job. I hit 6 figures right away when I launched it. We are passing $1 million this year alone in revenue. So we've really scaled. I do coaching, group coaching. Yeah. I have a podcast. I have 4 books, 2 are best-selling books on Amazon. I was recognized as the #2 recruiter in my company at my level this year, which is important because, I'm actively in the trenches. So I'm able to say in real time, like, this is working, like building relationships, offering value, attraction marketing, like it is absolutely working. It's different than a lot of the way that people are teaching, but I'm such an advocate for us elevating this industry and even just online marketing in general. You know what I mean? Like there's a right way to do it and a wrong way.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
And I always say that's so 2019. Like I feel like we really have to step up our game, to stand out and to make sure people have a good experience when they interact with us. So that's what I do now full time. I'm home. My girls luckily go to school right now. They're in person, but they're in pre-K and first grade. And my husband, he's here. He's on the other side of the house, but we've been home, this whole time. And it's been really great to pivot, and still be there for my kids when they need me, but still, work on my business as well.
Yeah. So I have a question on the $1 million. And if it's too personal, just tell me to shut up. It's not a problem. Is the $1 million from the network marketing or the Gold Digger Girl brand? Like, what's the percentage that we're talking about? Just so everybody's kind of clear on, what you've built versus the network marketing side.
Oh, that's such a great question. So that's all revenue for, that's come through my business. It's not sales in my network marketing. So it's all revenue. So
that's really freaking amazing.
It's crazy. It's totally, because we only did $250,000 in income last year. So what I did is I scaled my group coaching program where I could have more students, and I created it. I filled a gap in the market. I really studied and saw what was working, what wasn't, what I wished was out there. And I designed it and built it. And people really responded going, yes, like we need that. So that launched in January, and I was able to have, unlimited students because it's group coaching. So my network marketing is, I'm a 6-figure earner in the network marketing space, and I'm a 7-figure earner in the coaching space. So most of my income comes from my coaching. I do private, I do group, and then I have a monthly membership program where people pay monthly and they can access my recorded content basically. And I have I do a lot of stuff with like affiliate. So I'm a huge advocate of multiple streams of income.
I love it. And I want to get into one of your books, but before we start into that, when you're coaching people, you're coaching them on just the social media aspects of things, or what more? Because the book that I read of your 4 was Why Balance Is B.S. And I loved it. Easy
good.
read, you guys. It's like sit down and I'm like, yeah, I'm jamming through it.
Yay, I'm so glad.
And it's all, I don't want to say rocket science, and you have your PhD. We haven't mentioned that either, but it's stuff that, you need to remember and recognize. And you mentioned mom guilt earlier.
Yeah.
And I think it's important though to recognize, because I had an episode recently where we talked about mom guilt and how we really think it's kind of made up. It's a term that, we have to feel guilty for working, but your mom guilt was different because you weren't enjoying what you were doing. You truly were missing out. You felt like you were missing out because you were missing out. And that's completely different in the definition of mom guilt, I think, that we, take when we say, oh, I've got mom guilt because I'm working so hard, but I really love what I'm doing. And I
Yeah.
think that's different.
Yeah,
So,
I do too. So I basically, what I do is I teach anybody, any entrepreneur, how to build on social media in a genuine and authentic way. So for example, there was one of the students in my program, it was an artist, and it was before COVID, but she got into it because she didn't want to be like in galleries and just doing everything in person. So she signed up for it because she wanted to learn how to like get her name out there on social media. And it was like the perfect timing. She was able to pivot, shift everything online, and she was successfully able to sell all of her paintings online. So like she didn't skip a beat, where I think a lot of people were like, and now more than ever, I feel like online is becoming important. But like we started the conversation with, I really believe in your job is to figure out who you are, what your voice is, like what do you want to be known for, what value you're going to offer, and who are you serving? Because you may have something that's for everyone, but if you're trying to speak to everyone, you're speaking to no one. Like you want your audience to be like, oh, she gets me. Like she's just like me. And the mom guilt, like Elise is my strong-willed blessing. We'll just call her that.
I like that. Sweet. I like that.
I learned it in mom church. They're like, you have an SWB. I'm like, what's that? Sounds like a swear word, but SWB is a strong-willed blessing. And she is. And so
I have a client who calls it a cactus child.
I love it. That's kind of similar. Yeah. A lot of resistance all the time. My 6-year-old she'll look at the door and she won't come in if I'm in here recording or something, but the 4-year-old just comes in. So I'm literally going live on Facebook, my big weekly show. I've got like almost 100 live viewers on, and she's coming in and, Mom, I have to go poop. And then I run around, I leave the live while I'm live, hurry up and get her in the bathroom, come back. And she's like, okay, I'm done. Like they can all hear her. Do you know how many people message me going, oh my gosh, it's so refreshing to see you're a real mom. Like you are just trying to get by just like all of us. And
I once had my son come on and fart and let everybody know that he did. So I get that.
Oh, yes. Well, he and Elise would get along really well because she's very vocal about all of that. But there's this community around that. Like there's this sense of sisterhood and, oh my gosh, like, because being a mom is so hard and no one talks about it. And there's no book you can read that like tells you what to do with that kid, because you try to do what the book says and your kid's just looking at you like that's hilarious. So I think when we can say, no, it is a challenge to run a business and take care of ourselves and be a great wife and still, be romantic with our husband and talk about real things and, go to our kids' gymnastics. Like I feel like that we need to talk about that stuff and people don't. So yeah, I totally agree with you. There's a real mom guilt for sure.
Yeah. And I love that you're doing all of this. What you just said was fantastic, because you not only addressed the mom guilt part, but you also talked about what you're teaching people to do and how they should be talking to people. So you're obviously really great at this.
Yes. It's kind of my thing.
It is. And when you talk about, talking about it and being a mom and just how tough all of this really is, one of my favorite parts of your book, and something that we've talked about offline before too, is your elephant sisters. Mm-hmm. And reading how it all came about, I would love for you to share that story, because it totally touched me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to cry in your book.
Yeah. Whenever I read the story, because I actually contacted the photographer. Inside the book, there's a picture of these elephants. It's like grayscale. It's gorgeous. So he's over in like South Africa or somewhere over on the other side, because I'm in Texas. I contacted him and I said, do you give me permission to use your picture? Because this is the epitome of what it means to be an elephant sister. And I explained it to him. He said, yes. And every time I read that story, I like cry. So basically the idea is, so I'm being in network marketing, but I've seen this in affiliate marketing. I mean, it's everywhere, but especially with when you get a bunch of women together, sometimes there's a problem. So we have some bullying that happens. It's called commissionship, where if someone chooses to leave their network marketing company, or, it could happen in anything, right? If you're maybe working in a coaching program and you decide to pivot and do something else, sometimes there's some mean girl stuff going on. So the story of the elephants is the female elephants. What they do is when an elephant is about to give birth, they all get around her in a strong, tight circle, so no predator can get to her and give her the grace and space to have her baby. as soon as she delivers the baby, they kick dirt onto the baby to protect its like gentle skin from the sun. Then they stampede and they triumph and they celebrate her in this life that has just happened. And what's so beautiful about that is they're there for her to celebrate her, but they're also there to protect her. And now more than ever, like we really need that. And so Elephant Sisters was started to challenge all of us to step up and show up and be there for others. So if you see something happening, like for example, something just happened with Rachel Hollis, and there was some very visible people in the network marketing space that were bashing her on social media. Just a comment she made in her book. If you actually read it, it was taken out of context. But either way, it's not okay to say something so horrible about somebody else on social media. You have a choice. You can show up and be the light to others. You can connect. You can offer value. You can, engage with them, entertain them. But that's absolutely not okay. I always ask myself, think of the people that you adore, that you look up to. Like John Maxwell's like one of my mentors. He's big into leadership. He would never post something like that, or if you see people being mean girling to someone else, it's not okay just to watch it. Right. And we wonder why this is happening like with our kids and stuff like that. Right. It really does start with us. So I started Elephant Sisters as just a pact. And so a lot of my girls will say #ES, or, we'll just look for opportunities to showcase and celebrate a sister.
I love that. And whether you're in network marketing or not, I think it's something that is so important as a woman, a mom,
Yes.
as a business owner, as a podcaster. There's so many communities and tribes, and, we're banding together. And, as the hashtag community over competition goes, I mean, I work with some of my competitors. We actually will tag team behind the scenes on a project that nobody knows about.
That's so cool.
Because we're more powerful together than, alone.
Yes.
And when it comes to social media, I just, you mentioned Rachel, and you can just see she's going through a hard time. I don't know Rachel, obviously, but she's going through some really tough shit in her life right now.
Publicly. Yeah.
Yeah. And kicking her while she's down. I mean, it's just people hide behind their computers, I think, way too much. And they have so much, freedom, they think, to just say whatever, and it doesn't matter who they're hurting. And, you're right. It's up to the rest of us to stand up for what is right. I mean, I was doing it actually this morning. My husband and I are like, we're getting too sucked up into, reading Facebook comments, and we don't reply. We just read them and then we talk about them.
Yeah.
But today there was one on our CAL FIRE page that this woman was just demanding. It was on the evacuations, has nothing to do with what's going on in this episode, right? But she was just demeaning the firefighters. And
so sad.
I couldn't handle it. And I wrote back and I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I'm like, someone's got to stand up for these men and women, and we just need to do that, more of that, I think, and I love the story around Elephant Sisters and, what it means, and to be able to have more of that in the world, because
and
we
to
need
stand
it.
up. Like, I love that you did that, because, I always tell people, I'm not going to sit here and be, I'm not an activist. I'm not going to be really like getting into politics. Like, I'll always keep neutral with that because I want to be respectful of people's beliefs. But like, there was a thing with like Cuties on Netflix. I went live because I knew my video would go viral and get the word out about it, just because there was some debate on, if it was appropriate with the children used in the video. But like, you choose, like what you did, you chose, like, that's something I'm passionate about. And I want to stand up for those firefighters because you have a voice, right? So we have to take care for the influence that we have and make sure we're using it to stand up for those that maybe can't, or to get the word out about something we're passionate about. So you don't want to go around being like, everyone's horrible. But when you pick and choose the things that you are really passionate about. And I think that you have a duty to, and like your gut will be like, I need to say something. You know what I mean? Like, I always listen to my gut, and it hasn't steered me wrong.
Yeah, I love that. Let's talk about your book, because you say that it's called Why Balance Is B.S. And I love it because I believe that balance is B.S. I believe you live in the moment, in the season that you're in, and that's what creates balance in your life. And I love the book, and I want you to share how you do balance writing 4 books, having $1 million business, being a 6-figure network marketer, being a wife and a mom of 2. Like, that's a ton of stuff to juggle.
It is. Sometimes I'm like, that's crazy.
And you are constantly on. Every time I'm on Instagram or Facebook, you're popping up, LinkedIn, you're everywhere.
I know, it looks like it, doesn't it?
It
So,
does.
and just so everyone knows, like I sleep 8 hours a night. I work out. I mean, I don't work out at the gym or anything like I used to. I used to be really into it because I have PhDs in natural health and holistic nutrition, and I was a personal trainer for a long time. So that like used to be my life. But then when I had my second, I was just like, this isn't sustainable. Like, what is this new way of feeling healthy? It's to keep up with my kids. We have a place in the mountains. So if we're going to go hiking, like I want to be able to do that. Right. So although it appears that I'm working like a crazy person, I'm not at all. I actually work less now than I did last year because I was still in that like really heavy growth mode, and I am still growing, but it's different. I've learned to work through others and not do everything myself so much.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to say that little disclaimer because I think it does look like that and it's not true at all. So the reason why I wrote the book is because I hear so many people are like, how do you get it all done? Like, I want to be like you, and not in like, I want to be like you comparing themselves, but they want to do more. They want to have more success in their business. They want to juggle it all and feel like they're not falling short everywhere. Mm-hmm. And so like you said, I believe in being in the moment. And one of the things that I've gotten really good at, and this is a skill set I crafted, it's not something that's easy for me because I do have ADD, is whatever I'm doing at that moment, I'm all in at that moment. So right now we're doing this podcast and I can tell you're 100% in as well. I am not thinking about what I'm doing after this. I'm not thinking about, something my team needs tonight. Like I'm not thinking about any of that. So it's being in the moment, but then it's being able to pivot very quickly. So like if you have kiddos at home and you get done, like you have a 15-minute break where your kiddos don't need you, or they're like for me, mine are little. So it's always like a 5-minute video and I like run off to do something, but you've got that 5 minutes, like go post in your stories really quick, go put a story up on Facebook, like, on Instagram, like really you've got 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, don't go, let me go scroll or go do the laundry. Like that stuff you'll always have time for that. Right. But what can you do that's a key result area? Like what's something that you can do that's going to move the needle forward in the goals that you have? So part of it's just learning how to pivot really quickly. I call it like wearing different hats. So as soon as my girls get home from school, I just walk out of my office, I put my mom hat on, and my team knows they're not going to hear from me until like 9:30 at night. Like you can message me. It's just going to sit there. Everyone knows I work late at night. That's when I get all my stuff done.
I know.
Yeah, right. You've experienced
I do
this
know.
firsthand. Like that's the best time to find me. That's where I am. You can find me an email or messenger or wherever at night. And that's what I'm creating. So I've written all my books at night. I just released, I'm waiting for Amazon to approve it, but it's at the final stages of a new journal that's coming out. I'm designing a planner right now for 2021 at the time of this recording. So like, how do you do that? Well, I focus on one thing at a time. So I'm not writing, designing the journal and the planner and working on rolling out, a new course, or really focusing on building my team right now or some new tools for them. Like I'm not doing all of that. And also maybe, having some trouble with one of my children in school and helping them get back on track. Like I'm not doing all of that, right? I'm taking one thing at a time. But like you said, of being in the moment, there's seasons as well. And there's also crisis that happens. So I have a girlfriend who's struggling with something with her son in college. And she's like, I feel so bad because I've totally dropped my business. This has been taking all my time. And I feel so bad. I go, well, you need to let that go because your mom, your number one job is to be a mom. Like God gave you those children for a reason. You need to let all this stuff go and realize you're in crisis mode. You need to just be 110% for him. Be there for him because he needs his mom right now. What is the most important thing that you have to do? And she was like, oh my gosh, you're so right. And then when that settles down or passes, then she can pick her business back up. And that's the beauty of network marketing, direct sales, entrepreneurship, right? You can pick it back up.
Absolutely. So, I'm right there right now because as we were talking before, I'm now, it's like homeschool for distance learning in the afternoon. So I've had to pivot too.
Right. And maybe before you were connecting with potential guests or coordinating and booking people onto shows, like maybe your time to do that was when your kids are home now. So now you have to look at your schedule. And I had to redo my entire schedule when they were home. Like I had to change all my coaching client times, my group coaching when I went live. And I, still did stuff when they were here, but a lot of it I had to be with them. So I couldn't even work if I wanted to. And so it's instead of going, and I think some people are struggling with this at the time of this right now, we're still in quarantine, is they're wanting it to go back to what it was. and they're still resistant to it. And that just leads to disappointment. So whenever things change for you, like your husband loses a job or you lose your job or someone on your team quits or you have something bad happens, or maybe a feature that you're using for your business is gone, right? Like say tomorrow, Instagram Messenger went away or something. You have to acknowledge like this is real, right? Pull up your big girl panties and say, okay, now what? Like, what's the next step? What can I control? What can I do? And it's just being really flexible, because the more rigid we get, which I think sometimes like as a mom and we're type A and we're trying to like manage and control everything, we do want to have that like organization and grip, but you do have to have some flexibility, I think, or it can lead to disappointment.
Absolutely. And, for me, my disappointment with everything that's going on this year was that I thought my kids have always been home. My kids have always been home with me, which was not a big deal. They entertained themselves. So the plan was kindergarten starts. Well, we're going to do preschool too then. And I will at least get 9 hours to myself every week. And now we've got nothing. And instead of a playmate, now my daughter has me.
And she wants to do everything with mom.
She's like, do you want to play Barbies? So you'll see on my Instagrams, I'm like, y'all take breaks doing Barbies, right?
Like, this is normal, right?
That's my normal. Yeah. So,
oh my goodness,
we do have to be flexible. And, we actually just had our call with the district on Tuesday, and they said, yeah, we're going to open schools in January, but it's going to be up to you. And, the kids won't have PE. They won't have recess. They'll be 6 feet apart. I'm like, then what's the point?
Oh, I have heard that. Like ours is pretty much back to normal, but I have heard of that where they're like, this is what that looks like. And you're like, that's pretty much like them being home because they can't socialize or,
I'm
do
like,
anything.
That's like dangling the carrot in front of them of here's a playmate, but you can't play with them. That sucks. So I'm like, okay, then that means we have at least 10 more months of this.
Oh my gosh. I know.
So you do have to be flexible and, figure out what works. And it's funny that you keep mentioning your second child, because for me, I was laid off after my second child. I started my business after my second child. It's like all of these things revolve around her.
The second child.
Yeah, the second child. And I just totally lost my train of thought as I'm thinking about her and her Barbies.
Well, and the Barbies.
Yeah, and the Barbies. And, there's just that you have to be flexible with all of it.
Oh,
and just
it changes,
live in it.
though.
Yeah, exactly. And I was going to say that I used to be a morning person until these kids came around. And now I'm a night person. And it used to be that I wake up and I get all of my work done first thing in the morning. And I am still waking up at 5:30 because they're up and, with me
What's
at 6.
The point? Yeah.
But I am working more into the evening hours, and it's totally pivoted after that second child.
It's true. I shifted everything. You take those tests and everything. I was always the morning person, and now I'm up to like 1:30 every night but I think if you're listening to this and you're going, oh man, I want to have success and I want to be home with my kids and, I don't want to go to a job or I want to make my business work. I think knowing because my whole life is off my calendar. I write everything in a planner because I like to write things down, like pen to paper is like very creative. Yeah. So, and there's been studies around it. Like it's good to do pen to paper. So I have my planner that way where I kind of look at my whole month and then I write down what I'm going to do for the week. And then each day I have my list, but I have a calendar that like my whole life is on, right? Like, I'm booked solid. And sometimes that block is mom time. Like booked solid doesn't mean I'm working all the time. It just means everything is accounted for. And I know what I'm supposed to do every day. And every single day there's items on my list that are income producing activities or money making activities. So if you're sitting here going, oh my gosh, my kids are home, I can't get a minute to myself. Like I used to have the house was, quiet. They would go off, or I used to go to a job where at least I was at a desk and I could do my thing, right? There wasn't a little child needing me. You're going to have to really get protective of what your goals are and ask yourself, why are you doing it? And when you can find something that lights you up, that you're excited to work on, it'll get you up in the morning out of bed, but it'll keep you up late at night. And you're going to be growing as a person, because a lot of people are struggling with mental health issues right now. I have a lot of students, a lot of friends, relationships are being damaged. And the thing I see that's missing is that every day they're just in this constant state of like fake work. Like
Yeah.
if you're doing fake work, you're not moving the needle and you know it. And your subconscious mind is calling BS in the whole thing. Oh, I want to change my life and, be this awesome person, but you're not with the activities that you're doing. So your subconscious is kind of calling you out on it. And I really can identify with that because was my life before I worked on, changing my mindset and reprogramming who I was. So I would encourage you, really get a vision board, sit down and journal, dream a little bit like, okay, this is my new life. Could you generate enough income where you could have a tutor or a nanny come over and help you out, right? Or maybe someone's home with your kiddos to help them and you leave the house and go somewhere, like I do that. I'll go for, once in a while, I'll go overnight or for a weekend and just, knock out some really creative, awesome stuff. And it allows me to sleep in by myself in a hotel room. And my husband knows, like, happy wife, happy life. Like if I can just have a little time to myself, I come back just so strong. I need that. So I think it's just really dreaming a bit. I spend a lot of time vision casting for myself and the people around me. And when we have something we're excited about, that's really what life is all about, because you've seen it in relationships. If you're not growing as a couple, that's often why there's conflict, right? Mm-hmm. And if you look at problems with children, a lot of this is because of unstructured time. They don't have after school activities or sports and all that. Well, what are they going to do, right? They're going to get into trouble. So it's the same thing with us. If we have too much unstructured time and we don't have a focused goal, then we can experience some of those negative emotions.
Yeah. Oh, I can see why people wanted you to coach them on their stuff.
I'm like a hybrid. I'm like a life coach and a business coach.
I love that. I think that's so awesome. And that it just kind of came naturally. You didn't seek it out. And I think there's I take issue sometimes with like people just popping up as I'm a coach.
Oh, I'm really like, that's going to be the next movement. You're not ready to coach. And only because it devalues the coaching business, right? The industry, because they'll be working with someone that hasn't had any results. And then they'll think, this is what coaching is. Oh, so I think you really do need to earn your street cred, before you get into it.
Absolutely. Yes. And, and I think that when we talk about social media, it's such a blessing and a curse. Because, it does give the opportunity for people to say, things like, oh, I'm a successful coach and I'm this and I'm that. And they're really not. Totally. But at the same time, it's a great platform for you to learn things, just like podcasting. You can learn any kind of thing really on social media. You can meet all kinds of people. You can learn about, different industries and how to do things and all of that stuff. So it's both sides.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's so interesting too, because I think people don't realize like there's not a school for network marketing. Like I have a 12-month program called Six Figure Breakthrough Business Academy. And so I mail them their course materials in the mail. Like it's curriculum, it's semesters, like it's like school. But I mean, unless you're signing up for something like that, they kind of stumble into it. Right. Mm-hmm. So suddenly they're like leading people and like helping them make money. And so it is just sort of like free for all. And so, to actually like really develop the skill sets, and leadership can be learned, it's absolutely, some people have a knack for it. Others don't, they do more than others, but it can definitely be learned. But I think that, it's mentoring under someone else who has already had that success and has some structure around their programming and things like that, I think is really important.
Absolutely. And you mentioned something that it just dawned on me as a question for someone who is just starting out and they want to have a coach. There's a fear around investing. Mm-hmm. And, how much do you invest? And I haven't invested in a coach at all. So, I have no idea what the right answer is for this.
Yeah.
But how do you guide someone or, tell them that this is what to expect or, this is what you should invest? And because it's scary to put down thousands of dollars.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
not know.
Oh, absolutely. So I had a girl I hired, it was 2 years ago right now. And I fired her after a month. I got out of the contract. I said, absolutely not. I'm not, because I made the mistake. I watched her on a training and I was like, oh, I love what she's saying. And she said she did coaching. So I signed up. I didn't even get any referrals. I didn't ask her what success she had in network marketing. So I made the mistake too. What I would say is invest where you're a bit uncomfortable. So don't go in debt or something, but invest enough where you're feeling like, this is like invest back in your business. So when you do, so my first, $300, $400, $500 I made, I invested it back into it was like Abundantly You mindset boot camp or something. It was like a 6-week course. It was awesome. And it started to help me believe that I struggled with worthiness issues. I struggled with feeling like I had enough value to offer. I mean, good Lord, imagine if I had never broken through that, I wouldn't have any of this content out. But it was such a stretch for me because we were still getting out of debt and we had cut up all our credit cards. Like we were on the Dave Ramsey plan. But you know what? This year I'm spending $60,000 on coaching. That's like what I used to make at a job. So every dollar I've invested in coaching, I've made back tenfold. But what to look for is ask them, like whatever it is that they're going to teach you, make sure that they're showing you proof that they have done it. Ask for referrals. So I'll put, like, when people are looking at my program, I'll put them in group chats with my students so they can go talk to them privately and say, what's it really like working with Kimberly? You know what I mean? Don't be afraid to ask for that, to see referrals, talk to some people, see what they've done. And then this is the thing. I'm in a Bob Proctor coaching program as well. And he would actually work for Earl Nightingale. If you've heard the quote, you get what you think about most of the time. And that's the greatest secret. I totally believe in that. And he worked for Earl Nightingale. Could you imagine? Like, that's your boss. So like all these people, Tony Robbins, they all had a mentor that they just grabbed into their coattails and they learned everything from them, right? And Bob says it. He's like, everything I'm telling you is someone else taught me this. Like, this is not new information. So what I would say is find someone that you resonate with energetically, like the vibe is good. You know what I mean? You're digging them. And then I would make sure that they know what they're talking about, because all kinds of people get into coaching that have never had any of their own success. And, bless them for going out there and going for it. But really, if you need to make sure that they know what they're doing, if you're going to invest money in it. And then there's different ways. There's private, there's group. Just make sure that it fits your learning style. Check to see what kind of accountability they have. And then also, what is the program, right? Like, say, let me see the program. What is it that I'm going to specifically be learning?
Right. That's great advice.
Yeah. I'm glad you asked. Nobody ever asked that question. That's awesome.
Good. I love it. Can you share what your other books are and where people can find you? Because they're going to want to find you and they're going to enjoy all of your content, because I do. So.
Well, thanks, Michelle. So I have 4 books right now. The Fit Kim Lifestyle is the first one. It's on Amazon. The Fit, and it's FITKIM. People always said, how did you lose the baby weight? How do you not diet? How do you not count calories? And I've been the same weight forever outside of having my babies. So that one's all about like what to eat and things like that. And there's recipes in it. Then the next one, it was the #1 bestseller on Amazon, The Goal Digger. That's how I built on social media. So if you're new to it and you don't want to spam people, or, you want to build a good reputation for yourself, The Goal Digger would be good. Why Balance Is B.S, The Mompreneur's Guide to Getting Anything She Wants in Life. That's the one that we talked about, also #1 on Amazon. Those, if you just literally type in Kimberly Olsoon on Amazon, and it's OLSON, you'll see those. And then I just released one a couple months ago called The Art of Self-Discipline. So that one's all about beating procrastination, breaking bad habits, and achieving your goals. So if you're struggling, like what you need to do, but you're not doing it, it's literally a manual full of ideas and just bite-sized, simple things that you can implement right now.
Love it.
Thanks.
And your podcast.
Yes. So I have a podcast, top rated. It's called The Goal Digger Girl, and it's GOAL. So The Goal Digger Girl. I'm also on LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, Pinterest, Instagram, like we talked about. And then Facebook. I go live every Monday at 1:00 Central on my business page, The Goal Digger Girl. That's a really good place to start.
You're everywhere. Truly everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having
me. I really
me.
enjoyed it. This was a fun conversation.
I loved it too. Thanks, Michelle.
Okay, where are my elephant sisters? Didn't you love that story? I think that it's so important to create a community of women that simply get you and support you. And I love that Kimberly created something so unique. I look at her as someone who knows the power and reward of what it means to work hard and to share your knowledge, which is why I love Kimberly's story of getting to where she is today. Go check out her books, her podcast, and find her on your platforms. And if you're looking for a community to join, come check out the MSL community over on Facebook. We'd love to have you be a part of our sisterhood. You're not alone in any of this, and there are many of us who are just waiting to support you and cheer you on this journey of creating the future you want. Until next week, my friends, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay happy.